Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of Podiatry Marketing. With me today is Big Jim McDannald, all the way over in Canada. Jim, how are you doing this morning?
Life is good in Montreal. No complaints. Yeah, just powering through 2023, getting in shape, enjoying life. Yeah, no complaints here.
And what's your idea of getting in shape? What's your getting in shape look like? Do you have abs?
I do not have washboard abs, but I like to go for some runs. I do a little bit of weightlifting. I'm a skinny 150-pound distance runner, just trying to keep up with my 8 and 6-year-old. And that's what it's all about right now.
Yeah, I get disappointed that even in my dreams, I don't have abs. You think in your dreams you could at least put a set of abs on yourself for your dreams that you go, yeah, that's what I look like in my dreams. I
Yeah,
think I had an ab once.
Actually, one of the reasons I got into medicine to begin with is that I had some medical stuff that kind of I blame on not letting me have abs. I had a little condition called pectus excavatum, like a flail chest. It messes up your chest and your abdomen. So like I'm not porky or anything, but I'll never have those washboard abs, Rico Suave or anybody like that.
Yeah, I used to know some people that they never exercised a day in their life. They drank like a fish, and then they'd take their shirt off and they just had this washboard abs. And I just went,
Genetics.
genetics. Yeah. I just went, genetics. It is obviously genetics because they didn't work at it. Whereas I know other people, yeah, they do. They put the effort in. And it's like anything. It's just like podiatry marketing. If you put the effort in, you will get the rewards.
There we go. That's a
Which is
nice
why you
segue.
and I work on marketing, because we know we can get improvement with that. And our abs, genetically, we are predisposed to not having them.
Yeah, this is not the 10-minute abs podcast that you're listening to. This is definitely the podiatry marketing podcast.
So what are we talking about today, Jim?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about a high level topic. I think jumped into in recent weeks, we talked about why blog posts maybe aren't the first line of podiatry marketing, but today's a little bit more high level where we're talking about finding the intersection of your skills and your experience and how that can not only lead to maybe some professional satisfaction, but also really help people determine what messages they want to market out there. What do they want to put out into the world based off of, like I said, their skills and experience.
So where do people start with this? Because it is one of those topics that I know I was talking to someone this morning and they're still trying to figure out what direction should I be going in podiatry? And they get confused because podiatry is so broad. They're not sure, should they be staying completely broad or should they be focusing on one particular area or a couple of particular areas of podiatry?
No, that's a really good point. I think obviously we go through school in the US, they go through residency. And then even in the first couple of years, sometimes when you get into a practice, you don't start in your own private practice right away. Is that, yeah, you do feel this kind of like generalist mentality, right? Kind of jack of all trades. I'm going to do it all. I've already got my specialty, right? The foot.
Yeah.
I'm already like the foot and ankle guy. So there's no reason to niche down any further. But within school and residency and practice, there's probably certain procedures or types of care that people find themselves drawn to a little bit more. So I think it's that introspection or kind of really assessing what skills or type of care you like to provide. So maybe it's for some people, it's surgery, or some people prefer making orthotics, or some people like working with kids. Other people like working with adults, trying to finding those areas you're drawn to. And it's not always super obvious to people until they can step back from it a little bit. Maybe it was something that got them into the profession in the first place. Maybe something they found they were volunteering at something, they got into it. But at first is assessing what your interests are, and then also tying that into the skills that you've possessed or the skills you've trained to do, right? You went to a 3-year surgical residency. Do you like to do ankle and rear foot type stuff? Or even though you're trained in that, you didn't really enjoy that part of it. So I think that first part is really initially assessing the skills and experience, assessing those skills and the type of care you like to provide.
Yeah, it is a tough one because I think sometimes, especially when you first graduate and you're in the real world, is you might think there's one particular area, that's what I really like. But then once you actually start working, you go, oh, I actually don't like that as much as I thought I would now that I'm doing it on a more regular basis. And then you find other aspects of podiatry that interest you more.
No, that's an excellent point. I think just keeping an open mind. I think sometimes, whether it be in school or kind of the way that residencies are now, they're very heavily surgical. So maybe a lot of people are getting into it because of the surgery. But for me, for example, I was really into sports medicine. Like the surgery part was interesting to me, but being a runner who was injured and seeing some people that treated high level athletes was really what got me excited about podiatry in the first place. And you've got to be open to the idea that you may learn about what you want to do, but also knowing what motivates you, or knowing what gets you excited to go to work is really it seems like it would be easy, but when you know or take the time to assess what that would be, it helps really move you in that direction, not only from what you want to do yourself in the practice, but also what you show to the world. We talked about in the past that what you put out into the world, whether it be marketing or talking to any form of marketing you're doing out in the world, it shines a light on your expertise or what you're, if I walk into a running shoe store and say, I'm a sports medicine podiatrist, or if I'm speaking at sports medicine type events, then people will see me in that way. Or if I'm
Yeah.
advertising in the local running magazine or something, that's how people will see me. So it is a really important component. If you do have that interest or the skills in a certain area, you need to be seen in other places where people that provide those skills or are looking for those services are looking for you.
Yeah, it makes sense. Just a perfect example, I think, would be Simon Bartold. I don't know if you know who Simon Bartold is. So when I first graduated, Simon had been out a few years ahead of me, and he was the sports podiatry footwear guru, always was, always has been, and it's still the area of podiatry that just floats his boat constantly. And I'll guarantee you, if you had a look at a list of all the events that Simon went to in his early career, I would say a lot of them would have been sports medicine, running, because he was always seen at those events, and that was his interest, and he wanted to work with sporting teams as well. And I remember him telling me once that he put a lot of time and effort, a number of years, into doing things for free at sporting events before he ever got paid $1. But he was always seen in those areas, and now he's still like living the dream.
No, I think that's a perfect segue into the next section, really. And that's evaluating your past experiences, but then also making a plan for your future experiences you're going to have. So whether that's some type of, like you said, going to specific conferences, either talking or attending, maybe you're volunteering. Like you said, you're not getting paid right away, but you are that guy taking care of the local track and field team or the football team or the soccer team by being seen in those areas and having those experiences. Maybe it's attending coursework. It's going to the sports medicine, if you're into that, like those types of meetings, but just being very clear about what are those experiences you enjoyed in the past, but how do you build up that, for lack of a better term, like your professional resume to be seen as that person. And sometimes you stumble into it, but once you stumble into something you're interested in, you really have to kind of get known either in your local community. Sometimes it can be nationally. Whenever I first started practice, I wanted to get into more like the sports medicine aspect. I volunteered at the local, the marathon in Eugene, Oregon was just getting started again. And I had an interest. I'd worked the Chicago Marathon and Portland Marathon. I'm going to go help out the Eugene Marathon, and people will see me doing that. And like, if I have a running injury, I would go see the person that helped, do the medical tent at the Eugene Marathon. So it's not like rocket science. Evaluating your past experiences and projecting what you want to do and getting your future experiences lined up in that way, I think is hugely impactful and a really important way, like I said, not only for yourself that you enjoy it, but also to be seen by others doing that type of work.
It makes sense. If you want to be known for something, you got to be seen in the right areas. To me, it's common sense. I remember when I first graduated and then had my business on the Gold Coast, they had the Gold Coast Marathon. I put my hand up to volunteer for it. From the Gold Coast Marathon, and this is way before social media, but I bumped into a physio that was at the Gold Coast Marathon who was helping out. And he was also the physio at the time for the Gold Coast Rollers basketball team and also the Gold Coast Seagulls rugby league team. And he said, "Oh, do you follow either of those sports?" I said, "Yeah, played both." And then from there, he then started sending me all those players to him. But by having them coming in, then all of a sudden the newspaper was talking about a particular injury, and there's my smiling face in the newspaper with the patient. All of a sudden, I was starting to be known as I was the podiatrist that was in that particular area when I was on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's a great
example.
And
I'm a bit of a media tart too, so I don't.
You're not shy?
Nah. Oh, actually, I am. I'm very shy if people are wondering, but I cover it up with pretending that I'm an extrovert.
There you go.
So deep down,
Mr. Dr. T's secret is now out.
Yeah, but it is. A lot of people say, "Oh, I couldn't do that." I went through, and I haven't said this on this podcast, I don't think, but I have on my other one, or maybe it was on my old podcast. I went through primary school, high school, and university without ever getting up and doing an oral presentation. I just wouldn't do it. I would go to the lecturer and say, how much is this worth? And they'd say, the oral presentation's worth 40%, exam 60%. And I go, fine, I'll get 50 out of 60 for the exam. Just put me down for a 0. I wouldn't do it. Just refused to. I didn't turn up. I knew when I was playing rugby union in Cairns that I was going to get the trophy for best back, which is up here, actually on my wall. The trophy's sitting there. I didn't go to the presentation night because I knew when I got that trophy, I would have to do a speech. So I didn't go. I was petrified. So if anyone's listening to this and you go, oh yeah, that's me. I can't do talk. I can't do that. Just first be seen, like what you're explaining, Jim. Just be seen in the right place. And then that slowly will build up confidence over a period of time.
No, that's a great example. I think I might have mentioned this previously as well. I was one of those people who go to conferences, sit in the back, hang out with my friends, go to podiatry conferences and enjoy some of the lectures, but never would ever, yeah, a little bit of that maybe sometimes, but never would have thought that there was something that would compel me to want to get on stage and really share my experiences or expertise. But after having got into helping podiatry clinics improve their marketing and just really finding some ways of providing value to my colleagues, it's been something where now I have a podcast. I talk with you every week about it. I've been on different conference stages, whether it be on Zoom or in person. So yeah, it's amazing what you let yourself do when you find something you're really passionate about. So yeah, those are good examples.
I've gone from not being able to talk in front of my class or not being able to get up and grab a trophy that I'd worked hard for it and copped a lot of belts around the head, which explains a lot of how my thinking is, from speaking at the Osgo event in Liverpool in front of 1,000 people. They're getting up there on stage. And I must admit, when I got up there and looked at the crowd, I'm thinking, I wish I had worn my brown pants. Would have been better. And then all of a sudden, you realize when you're up there talking, you're going, and I still do this today. If I'm in front of a group talking, the whole time in the back of my head, I'm going, shit, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is amazing that I'm up here and I'm not terrified anymore. Yeah. So just experience.
No, it just takes time. And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah. Have we got off track?
A little bit off track. So we'll bring it back to where we're going with here. So now we can understand what our skills are. We have these experiences, and now it's time to put those two things together. And maybe you enjoy sports medicine, but you don't like working with adults. So maybe it's kids and sports medicine, or it's for me, it was like my podiatry background and marketing. So now I work with Tyson. Now I have a podcast. Now I provide these services for my colleagues, but everyone's going to be a little bit different. So identify those different skills you have, the experiences that you enjoy, and this experience you've gone through, and just really try to find what that is. And after you do that, like I talked about previously a little bit, is that once you know what those things are, you have to let the world know about it. Just because it's in your head and you want to do it, that's not enough. You have to focus on really making that visible to people in your local community. Maybe it's nationally or internationally, if you have that level of ambition or drive. But when you know what your skills and experiences are and what that intersection is, then you can really put out a strong message to connect with those ideal patients that you're going to enjoy seeing. Maybe it's not right when you do it. It's going to be like anything else. It's going to be a build. It's going to be a bit of a grind to get where you want to be with your practice by naming your clinic the right thing, by marketing yourself in the right way, by networking with people and having experiences in that special niche or subspecialty within podiatry. You'll be surprised the type of reputation, the kind of clinic you can develop if you're really focused on those things instead of just wondering what's going to happen by being a generalist your entire life.
And I think it's bringing in, like if you step back and you think about your personality and what you get enjoyment from, you will probably find if you can bring that into the areas of podiatry you like the most, you're going to be really effective, because it's even what we're doing now, like on the podcast, doing coaching, say speaking, but I had considered being a teacher. And there was something that, even when I mentioned heaps of times I was going to be an art teacher, but it was more the teaching, not so much the art. I enjoyed teaching people stuff. Didn't know how I was going to do it in front of a class, but I knew I'd work it out eventually. But that is what I'm doing now through this podcast, Podiatry Legends, the coaching and all that. I am actually teaching people. So I get so much enjoyment, but I'm teaching people that relates to podiatry. So I've taken what I've done as podiatry and I've slowly developed my career into an area that gets me out of bed in the morning really easily. For other people, like you said, it could be sports medicine, it could be working with children, so many different aspects.
Yeah. No, that's a perfect example as well. I think you have to find that intersection of your skills and experiences. And when you do, like I said, you wake up in the morning, you're excited to go to work, you're excited to show up on a Tuesday evening or a Wednesday morning and have a nice conversation with a podcast co-host. That was really the emphasis of today, is just to have people take a little bit of a step back, think about what skills they have, what experiences they've had, find ways to combine those and like put it out into the world and see what happens.
Yeah, I think even I know some podiatrists that are, say, good cooks. And I'm thinking, but if you step back and you think about it, is it the actual process of the cooking they like, or is it the creating that they like? So sometimes, and that's where podiatrists could be. Yeah, it's creating treatment plans to me is putting together a recipe for an end result, which is like the cake. So dig deep. People got to dig deep and find what it is that I think some people got like hidden skill sets. They don't realize they're even there themselves.
I think what happens is we get busy, right? Life is busy, whether it be family, practice, taking care of your staff, those kinds of things. You just get into the day to day. And it takes a little bit to take that step back and really evaluate where you're at and where you want to go. And when you do those things where your skills and experiences intersect, like I said, I think people can go in a direction that can bring them a lot of professional satisfaction and allow them to provide really great care to those people that are within that kind of area of that intersection.
Do you think part of the problem could be almost like a generational thing too, where you're in the profession, you look at the profession 10, 20, 30 years ahead and you think, oh, that's how I'm supposed to be. So some of your skills and interests and things that you like, when you're looking at the general podiatry profession, you go, and some people put those things away. They almost put a ceiling on themselves and go, oh, I want to do this, but I don't really want to stand out. I don't want to ruffle any feathers, or I don't want to look different to what all my colleagues look like.
No, I think that's a good point. I think there is this kind of combination of whether it be the way you're trained, the way your education you go through, like it doesn't, this kind of idea that you have a choice feels a
Yeah.
little foreign to sometimes to people that maybe you got into podiatry or into medicine because saying like, I want to help people. And while that's a great thing, you got to further define what that actually means to you and know that
Yeah.
you have, there is a degree of freedom you have to decide about how that's going to happen. It doesn't necessarily have to be the cookie cutter thing that your residency director did, or maybe that's the podiatrist in the community, the 60-year-old podiatrist in your community that you shadowed when you were like in college or university. So it, to know that the world can be what you want it to be, or your profession can be what you want it to be, is not something that you really get lessons about or anyone teaches you either in school or residency. And you have to find that out as you live life. Maybe some people will find it out earlier in life. Maybe they figured it out before they got into podiatry school. But even myself, I would say that I was the late person to really understand that I could take control and I could move my profession or my career in a way that I wanted to do and that was possible. Like going from residency into a big orthopedic surgical clinic, like I took whatever came my way because I wanted to be
Yeah.
a good employee, a good kind of like teammate. And I felt like if I didn't take that, then I was somehow letting people down or not being a good team player. So I think there are these kind of like unwritten rules or unspoken things that people have to, I started pushing against as I got a little bit older into practice, but like exploring these ideas a little bit earlier, whether in residency or getting earlier into practice, I think will really help people get on that path towards a profession or combining their skills in a way a little bit earlier that really brings them that professional satisfaction or joy to provide great care for people.
Yeah. No, I think it's all really good advice. So have you got anything else that you wanted to add before we finish up?
No, like I'm always open for people to send us messages, right? If this resonates with you, if you want to brainstorm or shoot ideas to Tyson or myself, we're definitely open to talking with our listeners about this. Some people, honestly, when it comes to like either changing your career slightly or majorly, it can be a stigma thing. It can feel a little odd to even talk to
Yeah.
friends or coworkers with other podiatrists with it. You might feel judged, right? So if you want to reach out to Tyson and me, go to podiatry.marketing. We're happy to have conversations with our listeners about ways to improve their practices, whether it be through coaching like Tyson does or marketing services like I provide. So definitely reach out to us. We have a lot of great interactions with our listeners so far, and we're happy to have more in the future.
Yeah. But like I always say to people, if you think you're going to be judged, oh yeah, you will be. You will be judged. You do anything different, you will be judged. But the people who are judging you aren't important, because the majority of people won't judge you. It's just there's only a small amount of people that, or other podiatrists that are always just looking at what other people are doing because they want to pull them down to their level. I call them mud crabs. Do you know if you have a mud crab, you have mud crabs, this story used to catch a lot of mud crabs in my younger days, that you never had to worry about mud crabs ever climbing out of your bucket. Because as soon as one mud crab got to the top and looked like they were about to leave, the other mud crabs would grab it and pull it back in. So I know there's people out there that are like that, that if they see someone starting to get to the top, they try and grab them and pull them back in. And what you got to do is just kick them and just move on and realize there's a lot of people outside. There's a lot of other people that want to see you succeed, because if you succeed, you can be the shining light for them, because then it goes, oh, if you can do it, I can do it.
That sounds good.
That's why there's so many podiatry podcasts out there these days.
There's only one that I listen to besides this one. Yeah. It's a legendary show, let me tell you.
Legendary show. Okay, Jim. So I will talk to you again next week.
Sounds like a plan, Tyson.
Okay, see you later.
Bye, Tyson.